Okay, I need to know something. Is there a point in every reader's life where math just stops working? Because I feel like readers are the only people on the planet who can look at a situation, completely understand the numbers, and then immediately decide those numbers are wrong. Like, normal people see a book for $25 and think that is a $25 book. Readers see a $25 book and think, well, actually, this book will provide me with approximately 8 hours of entertainment. Well, that's less than going to the movies. That's less than eating dinner out. Wow, that's less than therapy. So technically, I'm saving money. Honestly, reader math is not even a problem. It's a lifestyle. It's a coping mechanism. It is the reason our bank accounts are so confused. But our bookshelves are thriving because readers have this incredible ability to turn every questionable purchase into a logical investment. I bought 5 books today. Someone says, 5? And you're like, okay, first of all, let's not be dramatic. And second of all, they were on sale. And third, I actually saved money. And they say, how? How did you save money? And you say, well, because I didn't buy 6. See? Math. It's beautiful, beautiful math. Today, we are talking about the dangerous, beautiful, completely ridiculous world that is reader math. The calculations we make, the excuses we create, the absolute nonsense we convince ourselves is reasonable. Because every reader has done this. Every single one of us. That means you too. And if you say you haven't, I'm sorry. I don't believe you, because somewhere out there, you have a book sitting in your house that you bought simply because you thought, I might want to read this someday. And that someday was 3 years ago. And now that book has become furniture. Welcome back, book lovers, to L'Adulterous. And today we are entering the most dangerous subject in the reading world. It's not spoilers. It's not cliffhangers. Not emotionally destroying endings. No. The true danger, my friends, is walking into a bookstore with a credit card. So let's start with the biggest one, the Bookstore Equation. Because bookstores are not normal stores. I refuse to believe that they are. There is something about walking into a bookstore that immediately changes your personality. You don't enter like a normal person. Normal people walk into stores with a plan. They have a list. They have set themselves some boundaries. They know what they need. Readers? No. Readers walk into a bookstore like they're entering a magical forest and every single shelf is calling their name. You say, I'm just going to have a little look, which is the biggest lie ever told because nobody has ever just looked in a bookstore. That is not a thing. That is like saying, I'm just going to open one chapter. No. You know exactly what happens next. You walk through the door. You smell the books. You see the beautiful displays. You see the employee recommendations. And suddenly, your brain goes, oh, we live here now. The first book gets you. Always. You pick it up. You read the cover. You read the back. You read the first page. And then you do the reader thing. You whisper, oh, because readers have a special voice for books they want. It's like this little hopeful voice. Oh, this sounds good. And that's it. You're done. This book has chosen you. And then you grab another and another. And suddenly you find yourself standing there holding 8 books. 8! Like you're preparing for the literary apocalypse. And then you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to put some back. Are you? Are you really? Is this really what you're going to do? Because I have never met a reader who says, I'm going to put some back, and then doesn't somehow find another book to replace it. You don't remove books. You're just rotating the victims. And then the special editions appear, the bookstore equivalent of a trapped door. Because publishers know exactly what they're doing. They take a perfectly good book and then they make it prettier. Suddenly the book has sprayed edges or some foil work or art cover under the dust jacket. Ooh, a beautiful cover. A built-in ribbon bookmark. Maybe a bonus chapter. And suddenly your brain forgets everything, including the fact that you already own this book. It's already in your house. That's the problem. Books become people. We don't see them as objects. We see them as little treasures. And sometimes that means we are standing in a bookstore holding the same book twice. One copy at home, one copy in our hands, and our brain saying, but this one is prettier. And honestly, the brain wins. Every time. Then there are signed copies. Signed copies are dangerous because suddenly the price doesn't matter. The title doesn't matter. The genre barely matters. You could hand me a signed copy of a book about something I have zero interest in, and my brain would say, but the author touched this. Maybe not touch the exact page I'm holding. Maybe they signed it at a table. Maybe they signed 500 copies. That doesn't matter. My brain says, this is special. And then comes the checkout line, the final boss, if you will, because this is where they put all the dangerous things. The bookmarks, the cute little book lights, those fragrancy candles with the scents, tiny reading accessories you don't bloody need, things you didn't know you even needed until you saw them. And suddenly you're standing there thinking, well, I already bought the book. Wouldn't it be irresponsible to not buy the matching bookmark? We all know this is how readers operate. We don't make purchases. We create experiences. At least that's what we keep telling ourselves. And the worst part is we're actually happy because, yes, our bank account is looking at us like, are you freaking serious? But our bookshelf is glowing. And honestly, sometimes happiness comes in a hardcover. Welcome to the TBR support group, where we gather together to admit we might have a problem and then immediately add another book to our ever-growing TBR pile. Okay, let's talk about the biggest lie that readers tell themselves. And no, I'm not talking about the I'm only going to read one more chapter, because that's a completely different disease. I'm talking about the TBR, the to be read pile, the beautiful, terrifying, never-ending monster sitting somewhere in your house, judging you. I know you have one. It's right there. Because readers have a very interesting relationship with their TBR. We love it. We fear it. We completely ignore it. We add to it. And then every once in a while, we will stand in front of it and say, why? Why do I have so many books? Like we didn't already know. Like we weren't personally responsible for the monstrosity that has now become furniture in our homes. Like these books just appeared by magic overnight. Because this is the official reader excuse. I couldn't just leave it there. What does that even mean? Was the book trapped? Was it in some alternate universe? Was it abandoned? Was it sitting there crying? Because somehow we've become the rescue organization for books. You walk into a bookstore, you see a book, you pick it up, and your brain immediately creates a relationship. Oh, look at this poor thing. It's been sitting here all alone by itself. What if nobody buys it? What if someone else gets it? What if that someone is a person who doesn't know how to appreciate it? Excuse me? It's a book. It's not a golden retriever. But somehow, the emotional attachment is real. And then there is the biggest TBR lie. The classic, the legendary, the one we have all said. I'll read it soon. Soon. What a magical word. Because soon can literally mean tomorrow, next week, next month, after I finish my current book, after I finish my 5 current books, after I finish the book I started 6 months ago. The TBR timeline is completely different from normal time. Scientists study time. Physicists study time. Readers ignore time completely because a book bought in 2022 is still considered new. And don't even get me started on the books we buy because someone recommended them. Because this is where readers become extremely vulnerable. Someone says, you have to read this book. And that's it. An emergency alarm goes off. You have not one clue what this book is even about. You have no idea what genre it's in. You don't know who the characters are. You don't even know if you will like it. But somebody whose opinion you trust said, hey, you need this. So naturally, the only thing you can do at this point is buy it. Then 6 months later, you look at your shelf, you see the book, and you think, oh yeah, I bought that because everybody loved it. And then you remember, you also bought the other book everyone loved. And the other one everyone was talking about last month. And the one that went viral on TikTok. And suddenly your TBR has become a museum exhibit. But here's the thing. I actually think our TBRs are kind of wonderful because every book represents a version of ourselves. The person we were when we bought it. The story we were excited about. The mood we were in. The curiosity we had. A TBR isn't just a pile of books. It's literally a pile of possibilities. Now, does that mean we need another book? Absolutely not. Are we going to buy another book anyway? Abso-freaking-lutely. We as readers are hopeful people. We believe every book could be the book The one that changes everything. The one we can't stop thinking about. The one we recommend forever. And honestly, that's kind of magical. So, today we are competing in the most intense athletic event known to readers. It's not running. It's not gymnastics. No. It's the Reader Math Olympics. The sport where we take completely unreasonable decisions and somehow justify them with confidence. This is the event readers dominate because readers have mastered the art of making something expensive feel free. For example, a book costs $30. Readers say, okay, but it was originally $35. So I saved $5. Congratulations, you still spent $30, but somehow you won. This also applies to sales. Sales are dangerous because the second we see the word sale, our brain stops functioning. A book is 20% off. Amazing. A book is 50% off. Imagine, see? A book is 75% off. We are legally required to buy it because readers don't ask, do I want this book? No. We ask, would I ever want this book? And the answer is almost always yes. This one is my favorite because readers become accountants. Suddenly, we are doing advanced financial analysis. I paid $18 for this book. Let's say it takes me 6 hours to read. That's only $3 an hour. That's cheaper than a coffee. That's cheaper than Netflix. That's cheaper than therapy. Honestly, the math is questionable, but the happiness is real. And really, that's priceless. This is where readers lose all control because subscriptions feel harmless. It's only one book a month. One teeny, tiny, little book. Except that's 12 books. 12! And then somehow you also bought books outside the subscription. So now you have subscription books, bookstore books, online sales books, library holds, ARCs, gifted books, books you forgot you ordered, books that you pre-ordered. And then there is the ultimate Reader Math Olympic event. The gold medal winner, the champion, the undefeated category. The I deserve this book. Because sometimes you don't need a reason. You had a bad day. You had a good day. Maybe you finished a project. Maybe you just survived Monday. Maybe you made dinner. Maybe you answered emails. Ooh, my favorite, you existed today. And suddenly, you deserve this book. And you know what? Who am I to say that you don't? Maybe you do. Because books are not just things we buy. They are little moments we give ourselves. All right, it is time. We have laughed. We have exposed ourselves. We have admitted that our bank accounts cannot be trusted around bookstores. But now we must face justice. Welcome to Reader Court. Today, we are putting the most questionable reading behaviors on trial. The things we all do but pretend we don't. And we are going to decide, is this a crime? Or is this simply being a reader? Dun, dun, dun! The court is now in session. The defendant stands accused of purchasing a book without reading the synopsis. Ooh, without knowing the author. Ooh, without knowing the genre. Simply because the cover was beautiful. Evidence presented, a gorgeous hardcover, beautiful artwork, sprayed edges, possibly gold foil. The defense says, look at it. That's it. That's the entire argument. Look at it. And honestly, the jury understands because publishers know exactly what they're doing. They put a beautiful cover on a book and suddenly we are not buying paper. We are buying a full, glowing experience. The prosecution says you already have 100 unread books. The defense says, but none of them look like this. Not guilty! Next case. This one is controversial because logically it makes no sense. You already own the book. You have read the book. You know the story. You have a copy sitting at home. So why? Why do you need another copy? The defense says this one has sprayed edges. The court would like to note that this is a very, very strong argument. Then another copy appears, but this one is signed. Another one appears. This one is special edition. Another. This one matches the series. Suddenly, we are no longer discussing books. We are discussing collecting. And collectors have rights. The prosecution argues you have the exact same words in all 4 copies. The defense responds, yes, but the vibes, very different. And unfortunately, the vibes argument wins. Unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. The verdict, accepted. Next case. Now we have a serious offense because every reader has done this one. You are halfway through a book, maybe even 80% through, and then another book comes along and suddenly your current book becomes invisible. You say, I just want to read 1 chapter. No, you know what you're doing. You're cheating. You're being an adulterous whore. And the worst part, sometimes the new book wins. Sometimes you disappear into it and your previous book is sitting there like, excuse me, we had plans. The court understands both sides. Because sometimes a book just isn't the right book at the right time. Sometimes your brain wants something a little different. Sometimes you need a thriller after a romance. Sometimes you need a romance after emotional damage. Sometimes you need a cozy mystery after a book destroyed your soul. Verdicts? Not guilty. But that one comes with a warning. Final case, the most serious of accusations. The courtroom is silent. The evidence is overwhelming. The defendant's bookshelf contains 400 books. The Kindle contains 600 books. The library app contains 37 holds. And yet, the defendant says, I have nothing to read. Dun, dun, dun! And you know what? We all know this one. Because having books and having the right book are 2 very very different things. Sometimes you don't just want any book. You want the book, the exact mood, the exact feeling, the exact story you need. So technically, you aren't lying. You just have very specific requirements. Verdict? Guilty, but with understanding. Court is adjourned. Please collect your books and your completely unnecessary but emotionally important bookmarks on the way out. Okay, we've spent the entire episode making fun of ourselves. The bookstore purchases, the impossible TBRs, the excuses, the questionable financial decisions, the fact that we can somehow convince ourselves buying another book is an act of responsibility. But honestly, I think there is something really beautiful about readers because books are never just books. Not really. A book can be a memory. A book can be a friend. A book can be a thing you read during a difficult time. The story that made you laugh when you needed it. The character who felt like they understood you. The world you escape to when your own world feels too loud. And maybe that's why reader math exists. Maybe that's why we justify the purchases. Maybe that's why we collect special editions. Maybe that's why we get excited over a signed copy or a beautiful cover. Not just because we're buying objects, but for a reader, we are collecting memories. Every book on a shelf represents something, a recommendation from someone you love, a trip to a bookstore, a conversation, a feeling, a version of yourself. And yeah, sometimes we have too many books. Actually, almost definitely we have too many books. But I don't think readers ever regret loving books because reading gives us something. It gives us curiosity. It gives us imagination. It gives us a place to go. So if you have a giant TBR, welcome. You're amongst friends. If you have bought a book because the cover was pretty, same. If you have multiple copies of the same book, we understand. If you have said, I have nothing to read while surrounded by hundreds upon hundreds of books, I see you. Because that's the magic of being a reader. We are logical people until we aren't. And maybe, just maybe, that's okay. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for laughing at our ridiculous reading habits. Thank you for being part of this amazing book community. And now, I want to know, what is your biggest reader math crime? Did you buy a book because the cover was pretty? Do you own multiple copies? Have you ever said, I have nothing to read while your shelves were overflowing? Tell me! I need to know that I am not out here alone. Make sure you follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers because the only thing better than buying books is finding people who understand why you bought them in the first place. Until next time, keep reading, keep laughing, keep adding books to your TBR. And remember, it's not a shopping problem. It's just a reader math problem. I hope that you have the reading week you deserve, and I will catch you next week. Take care.